All right, welcome everybody to the Brand Sweat and Tears podcast. I'm your host Dave Oldham, and today I'm really excited about today's episode because my guest is AJ Brau, who is the CEO and founder of an app called Wander. And when I first saw AJ present this app, I was impressed both by her and by the coolness of this app. So she's going to tell you a little bit about it and how it came about. But I was thinking to myself, like, this is so cool. And why hasn't somebody done this already a long time ago? It's one of those ideas that kind of is like, man, this should have existed for a long time. But I'm really excited that AJ and her team are bringing it to life and making it available for us now. um, so with that, I want to introduce you all to AJ. And AJ, tell us about yourself a little bit and how did Wander come to be?
Thanks, Dave. I'm so excited to be here. Every chance I get to tell the story is I jump on. So thank you. Yeah, I am from Utah originally. I have a 3-year-old daughter who's almost 4. My husband and I have been married for 5 years, and we are just loving life at full speed right now. I feel like I've been on a full sprint since I was about 8 years old. But yeah, we've been living life at full speed for the last few years, 5 years since we've been married. But the idea for Wander actually started a long time ago when I was 14 years old. Maybe even before that. I started to write code when I was 8 years old. My dad saw that I was taking things apart around the house and loved to build things and make lots of messes. And so he decided to buy me a computer and introduce me to digital creation. That's what I call it. That's a lot less messy, and it was more in my dad's wheelhouse. And so I
At
really
the
fell
age
in
of
love.
8.
Yes, I fell in love with this concept of building something out of nothing, right? Just your brain and a computer. I started building animations, websites. I even built this little sock company. Designed socks and bought them from manufacturers in China and built these websites, built an affiliate website for girls soccer at one point. Never generated enough traffic to make any money, but learned how the internet works, how to pull the thread all the way through the loop, on an idea.
Mm-hmm.
That was something my dad really encouraged me to do at a young age, was just finish something. Just have an idea and just pull it all the way through. Even if it fails, just finish it. Which, business isn't ever finished, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's how I got into software. But when I was 14, I was on vacation to my most favorite place in the world, which is Lake Powell. Many Utahns will know Lake Powell.
Yes, I'm right there with you. Also
Yes,
my favorite place on earth.
we're going there next week, and I'm just dying. I'm so excited. But I was sitting there on the boat when I was 14. We were right outside of Smith Fork Canyon, if you know where that is, up by Halls Creek Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to use this paper map and this guidebook to figure out, okay, where should we go? So I was always the navigator planner in the family. Where should we go? How should we spend the last couple days here? And the paper map was flapping in the wind, and I had no idea. I tried to figure out where I was on this map. And so I pulled out Google Maps to see my blue GPS dot. And I was just so frustrated at how cumbersome it was to use these 3 things, right? Because the paper map and this guidebook had the local content I needed to really get my bearings and understand what was possible. But the Google Maps had the technology I needed, the GPS and everything. So I was so frustrated. I decided to go home and for 2 years work on this app for Lake Powell. It's the Lake Powell Map app. That's what it was called. It took
Wow.
2 years. So after soccer practice, basketball, I would go home and work on this. I would read books and articles, and I'd compile all the content and everything.
This is
And once,
14 to 16,
yep, 14
basically.
to 16.
Wow.
And I
I'm
told
just
myself
thinking
I was
like
going to be a
what the
millionaire.
other 14 to 16-year-old girls were doing at that time. Did
I
friends
felt
think like,
very,
what are you doing?
I felt very odd. I've always felt very different and weird. But I just kind of learned to lean into it.
That's so awesome.
But anyway, so I built this for 2 years, and once it was on the App Store, I decided to go down and print out flyers and just put flyers all over Page, Arizona and Bullfrog and all the gas stations leading up to it, just whoever could. And I had the advantage of being a 16-year-old girl that was like, hey, will you put up my flyer? And so
hard to say no to that, right?
Yeah, really hard to say no. And even knocked on the door of the National Park Service, handed it to the secretary, and they got word of it and started actually recommending it to people. They recommended
cool.
visitors to all these people. And
were you charging for it, or was it a free download?
$10 to download.
Okay,
so
nice.
Within 18 months, I remember sitting on the bus or something in the morning, heading to school, and seeing that the total download revenue was over $100,000.
Whoa,
it's crazy.
You go, girl.
So,
that's amazing.
Anyway, and the reviews were amazing. People had said we'd helped them, navigate some really sticky situations after dark. They'd lost cell service and they were able to get back to their house. All these cool things. And people on forums were talking about it, recommending it to people. It was just really cool. Articles were written about it, news features, all this stuff. So anyway, but what this project taught me, this small scale success, was that people really love local map experiences. We obviously filled a gap for this one destination.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so naturally I thought, well, let's scale this. And I had actually other destinations call me and say, hey, can we hire you to build an app for our destination that's like this? And
so word of mouth was spreading.
Yeah, things were spreading, but I was in high school and I wasn't going to quit high school, and I had soccer and basketball and this other stuff. I was skiing, enjoying life being a teenager.
Yeah.
And so I decided, hey, I'm going to put this on the shelf, and someday if it's still a problem, I'm going to come back and solve it in a bigger, better way when I'm more equipped. And I knew from this experience that I needed to increase my technical abilities. I needed to learn how business works, how teams work, how product and engineering teams work. I was mostly focused on the product and engineering side, learning how a really high functioning product and design and engineering team operated. And so I decided to go become an engineer full time and work at a startup. And so I went and worked at startups. Had some really great opportunities from some.
Was this right out of high school, or did you?
I served a mission.
Okay.
I served a mission. I went to Japan, learned Japanese, had a very humbling experience in that country. It was great. Came home, got married, and was working as an engineer. And then after Lucy was born,
but you were like self-taught from a coding perspective. You didn't need to study anymore, like at the university level. I mean, you're probably way ahead of most of those classes.
No, I didn't study at the university level. I did, after my mission, do a couple months of a boot camp just to freshen up some skills with the latest frameworks and things, and get a certification and all that.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, went into startup, started working for startups, and had a really great experience learning from senior engineers and senior product managers and designers, and got to see the company Eddie HR go from 0 to 1 and be one of their first engineers. Help them.
Oh, so it was Eddie.
Yes.
Nice.
Travis is one of my heroes.
Yes, Travis Hansen. We should give Travis and Eddie a shout out. They're an awesome company, awesome culture. Everything that we hear about it is really, really great. So it's nice to hear from the inside that that's good. And I'm curious to ask you, what was it like? There are very few female engineers, especially at your young age. Did you feel like they treated you, did you feel like you were equal, that they respected your ideas and your opinions, or did you feel like you had to fight a little harder to participate with the group?
That team was amazing. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of other people have different experiences, but I've personally, as an engineer, I never felt discounted.
Awesome.
I never felt like they expected less of me. I was held to a very, very high standard over there, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's
and
awesome, and that's
yeah,
a great, that's a great shout out for Eddie, because you're female and you're super young too, right? And
mhm.
so them kind of pulling you in and giving you that experience and letting you be a contributor and holding you to a high standard, that says a lot about them as a company. I think that's great.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from Travis, which was a quote from someone else, one of his mentors, but he believes that starting a company is one of the most charitable things you can do because,
Hmm.
and I believe that I've totally adopted that
Hmm.
because everyone needs a place to learn and grow professionally, provide for their family, and I feel that Travis did that for me. He took a shot on a 21-year-old
Mm-hmm.
out of a boot camp, like half of a boot camp.
Although
Um,
21-year-old with almost 10 years of coding experience, which is awesome.
but it was very patchwork. My experience, I had a lot of learning to do. It was definitely still a risk. Especially having never worked in that kind of environment. I'd always just worked on my own. And so it was still a risk, but yes, I'm very grateful.
That's awesome. Okay, so you're working for Eddie HR, and this idea is still kind of in the back of your head.
Yeah, and it
Is the
just
Lake
bugged
Powell
me.
map app still selling? Like, was it
No,
still
no,
a
no.
thing, or?
No, in fact, the end of my mission, it fell off the App Store because I stopped maintaining it, and there was
Oh
a big
yeah.
jump from Objective C to Swift, and it needed like a full rewrite. And so but it was always nagging at me because one, I needed it when I went down to the lake. I needed it, and people were bugging me about it. Hey, where did this app go? People were talking about it on forums, trying to find it. People
Mm-hmm.
started to reach out to me on my mission actually and say, "Hey, are you going to build this app again? Are you going to put it up on Android? All this stuff." And
Yeah.
but it just bothered me that it felt like an untied loose end.
Yeah.
And so but my thought was always, oh, I'm just going to go build that app again. That was always my
Mm-hmm.
thought. I'm just going to go build that app again and, maybe have a nice side project, whatever. But when my daughter was born, that's when the Wander idea started to develop because
Hmm.
as a new mom, it became my job to create experiences with my family, right? Outside of the house,
Mm-hmm.
off the couch and outside the house. And I realized for the first time just how difficult it is to discover and create those experiences, whether it be a weekend trip or, hey, what are we going to do this Saturday? Or where are we going to go today after work? We have 4 hours till the kids go to sleep. Like, what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Even just finding those experiences. And I felt like that problem was hurting my relationships with my family and my quality of life. And
Hmm.
the more I talk with people about this, the more I realize how common it is. And so, and I knew how in an isolated instance, the Lake Powell app solved that problem for one
Mm-hmm.
destination, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I came to the conclusion over a matter of a couple months that the world needs to be mapped in a new way. It's just not mapped the right way right now.
Hmm.
Um, the way it's mapped right now is Google has mapped it. It's taken all of this, crowdsourced content and they have stewarded this big global map. And we as humans have given Google basically all this control of how we spend our time and money. We may not even realize it, but Google dictates how the world moves,
Yeah.
right? And and so that was the conclusion. But I knew that in order to map the world, I couldn't map it, or else it would, even if I had unlimited money, it would just end up to be the way Google mapped it, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't the point, right? And so I discovered these different players in the industry, in the ecosystem, that were experiencing an interesting pain point that I could solve that would allow them to help me solve this bigger problem.
Hmm.
And those players are National Park Service, destination marketing organizations, so tourism bureaus,
Mm-hmm.
and resort owners, all these people that steward an area of the world. These people, anyone that is right now printing a paper map, are the people that we go to and we say, hey, let us make your lives 100 times easier. Let us help you replace these outdated paper maps that you have to reprint every time you change anything. And then contribute that content to the global map. Take ownership of your area within the global wander map that we are creating in the world. And so what that model has allowed us to do is generate early revenue, because people pay for paper maps, they pay for wander, right? Meaning the destination. So the app is totally free for visitors. And then our destinations assist in distributing the Wander app to their visitors, right? So they don't have to be solely responsible for distributing a custom app, which people don't want to download an app for every place they visit. We know that. We've known that for a long time. And so we take all the technical complexity and all of the headache, and we assist in marketing their map and getting their name out there as well. And so that's the model. So we've been around for 3 years. We now power the official maps of Moab, Hot Springs National Park, Pinehurst, North Carolina. We have destinations in 10 states now.
Nice.
We're moving internationally. We have about 40 destinations now that are paying to use our software, and we have about 100,000 monthly active users just through that have been acquired through this model of partnering with these destinations. So
the destinations pay to use the platform to host their maps. And do you give them tools to help them create the maps?
Yes,
okay.
That is what most of the development has been for the last 3 years, actually, is the infrastructure behind that, feeding the data into these maps. And so destinations can invite their stakeholders to come take part in managing the area. So the vision is that, for example, in Moab, when you click on Delicate Arch, you know that point of interest is being stewarded and managed by Arches National Park, by the correct person. Our goal is to be the most trustworthy travel platform, trustworthy map of the world.
Yeah.
That's
I love that you said that, because the other digital maps and apps that I've downloaded, I've had a very low level of trust with after using them, right? So that trust thing, I think, is huge, because you don't want to use an app and then get lost or have it be outdated. And I've had that experience too many times. So, now I'm starting to think twice before I use a map app. So if Wander becomes like the trusted source, because you're empowering those local destinations to kind of own that and keep that up to date, and they have a high level of motivation for it to be accurate, that's awesome. I love that model.
Thank you. Yeah, we see a huge amount of potential for mapping the world this way, and the impacts. Tourism is one of the world's biggest industries, right? And where people decide to spend their money, spend their time, how they decide to spend their time, and how they decide to recreate recreate and visit has a huge impact on the world, our economy, our ecosystem, the environment. And so we think it's really important to align the incentives of the right parties in the industry, in the ecosystem, to bring about the best outcomes. So many problems. There are economies around the world that less than 5% of tourism revenue goes back to the local economies. It's called leakage in our industry. It goes to the large hotel chains and different.
It doesn't stay local.
No, it doesn't stay local, and people want their dollars to have impact more today, perhaps, than any other time in history, right? And so if people understood these things and understood the impact that their dollars could have and how to make those dollars have the right impact, there's just a lot of misalignment in our industry that we're bringing into alignment.
That's awesome. So was Lake Powell the first app that the first map that you guys did in Wander?
Of course, I had all the data already for the most part. And so I'm still the steward of the Lake Powell map, actually. I'm still the one. We haven't found the right steward yet.
So is Glen Canyon, like national parks,
I'm gonna go
They
knock on their door next week and revisit
okay.
that.
Okay.
I've just been,
Okay.
it sounds obvious. There's so much in a company that you're running and chasing, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
why? And then things get highlighted and you're like, why haven't I done that? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go do that.
Okay. All
So
right. You'll be there next week so you can
yeah.
meet with them in person. So I want to fill in a couple of the blanks. You're at Eddie
Hmm.
and you're kind of exploring this ecosystem, thinking about this. You come to this realization that like the world needs a better mapping kind of framework, especially for local destinations. At what point were you starting to build it like nights and weekends and gradually kind of got it to a point where you were ready to dive in full time? Walk me through that kind of
Yeah. So
process.
in 2020, in May, I started to build prototypes just after Lucy would go to bed. I was working full time still as an engineer. I will never not work. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
wired to be that way. Um, so yeah, I started doing that, and then and then by January, I had a prototype and a pitch deck, and just found some really amazing investors that were willing to take a chance on a 23-year-old mom.
Wow. We should
Raised,
probably give them a shout out because that's kind of rare too.
yes,
So who were your early investors?
Josh James was
Nice.
the first.
Did you know him already? Did you get introduced to
Yeah.
him?
I grew up in
Okay.
Alpine, and
Okay.
his oldest daughter and I are really good friends. So
Oh,
I had,
nice.
and he was
Okay,
one of
so
my
here's like it's a
earliest
little bit
mentors.
like what you know as much as or who you know as much as what you know. So for
Oh, I
those of
feel
the
very fortunate to know Josh. He's been so supportive of all. He watched the Lake Powell app firsthand. You know, he's been one of my mentors from a really young age, and he
Oh, that's
always told me,
awesome.
he's like, AJ, you've got to just go all in something at some point, and come talk to me, and we'll do it the right way. We'll get the money, we'll raise. Um,
Oh, that's so cool.
he's been a great supporter of
Okay, so
ours.
we should give. I mean, I think a lot of people that will listen to this podcast know Josh James, but Josh James is the original was one of the founders of Omniture, and then sold that and is now the founder of Domo, which is a big data platform. And Josh has had enormous success. He's kind of one of the godfathers of Silicon Slopes.
Hmm.
I think if I'm getting my history right, he might even be the guy who coined the phrase, or at least kind of brought that to existence, Silicon Slopes. And he and a couple of other kind of the big names in our generation of technology in Utah. Josh is kind of like his face is on the Mount Rushmore of Utah, like tech
Yes,
entrepreneurs, right?
that's a good way to say it. Yeah, yeah.
So
One of
that's
the
cool.
big,
So Josh has been a good mentor and early investor, and that I'm sure that helped you kind of like get what you needed to get this thing brought to life, right?
yep. I was that weird kid that just wanted to talk to my friends' parents about their jobs, like in junior high and high school, and it bothered my friends so much. They're like, "This is weird. Stop talking to my parents." It's like,
They're like, hey, let's go play, let's go do something. You're like,
let's
no,
talk
I want to
about
talk to
boys
your
or
dad.
something. I'm like, I just want to talk about business, and because I want to change the world someday, you
That's
know.
awesome.
Um, but anyway, so yeah, Josh has been a great. Hal Heaton from BYU, and then Corey Shelley. We just had a great group of angel investors, and then ran into Landon Ainge about 6 months later, and we were
Hmm.
able to jump on with Tribe Angels, and in that group we brought on Brandon Fugel, who just joined our board. Actually,
Awesome.
Brandon is an amazing. Anyone that has a chance to work with Brandon, highly encourage
He's a
that.
sharp guy.
He's amazing.
Um, we should mention, yeah, Brandon is, I think, one of the top in the nation. I mean, I don't know if Colliers is global, but he's,
It is.
one of
It's
the
the
top
largest commercial real estate in the world, actually.
in the world is Brandon Fugel. And you see his name on every single billboard where there's available real estate, like either land or commercial real estate. So he's been kind of a staple of the Utah ecosystem as well, and
You should have
invests in a
him
lot of
on this.
companies. So.
Have you heard his story? You should have him on this. on the
No,
show.
I mean, I would love to have him on. He feels like a big get for me, right? As far as like he's in high demand, and I do watch his the Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, and it's kind of crazy, all that stuff. The ranch that he bought with all the paranormal activity, it's been really cool to kind of follow that process. But yeah, I'll try and get him on. Maybe if you've got a connection, you can help
Sure.
me get Brandon on.
Yeah.
So so you start getting some investors. At what point did you have to go talk to Travis and say, Travis, this has been great. Love working at Eddie, but I'm making the leap.
I actually left Eddie right when Lucy was born and started working as a contractor. Because they weren't, this was pre-remote work, and they were like, hey, part-time would be fine if you want to do that, but remote, it just isn't going to work. I think they've changed since then, like everyone has.
Mm-hmm.
But I totally understood that, because culture is so important to them, having dialogue and
Yeah.
the team dynamic. But yeah, so after we raised that, I didn't take a salary for 2 years with
Wow.
Thunder. So my husband and I, we flipped a cabin, made about 70 grand, lived off of that. Because my husband
Well,
is still in school, right?
okay.
He's getting a PhD. We now have a stipend and health insurance that he brings in. Great.
Nice.
But for a while, we were just burning.
So you
And
guys
I
are in North Carolina right now. What's he
Mhm.
studying? What's he doing in school?
Accounting.
Accounting. Okay. Is he getting close to?
He's about 3 years in. So
Okay. And is
yeah,
this how many years? Like a 6 year
5.
kind of 5 year? Okay.
Yep.
So got
Yep.
still a little ways to go. So are you generating revenue from Wander now? Is that
Yes.
bringing
Yes.
money in?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. We are not quite profitable, but getting there. We see the light at the end of the profitability tunnel.
Nice.
We're excited. Um,
Okay,
but
so
yeah.
you're working as a contractor, building Wander, got the investment capital. At what point you've got a co-founder? We should probably mention her and give her a shout out.
Oh, Tiffany. Tiffany joined later.
Okay, yeah. So you were just doing this solo for a little while.
We had a small team, mostly engineers. Two of those engineers are still with us. They are
Nice.
amazing. Oh my gosh. I love my engineering team. Like, I use the L word with my engineers. I love them.
The L word. Love.
Um,
So how did you find them? How did you recruit them?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn has done everything for me. I mean,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, just LinkedIn, and then referrals from people on LinkedIn, and it's just been great. But
So you and a couple of engineers, and then how did you meet Tiffany? Did you know her already, and how did she end up joining?
oh, that's a funny story. So let me fill in some gaps.
Okay.
So we raised this round in January. We scrapped an MVP together in 4 months and shipped an iOS app, Android app, and a full back end, front end, full CMS, like scrapped together in 4 months. Got our
4 months.
first paying
That's insane.
customers that first month, and then we just outsold the product for the first 6 months. And our early customers will tell you that we outsold the product the first. There's a special place in heaven for early customers. They're just it. And but anyway, so sold that, and just kept grinding, kept just raising money as we could, just to keep lights on. And then Tiffany and I met. We're also backed by Convoy Ventures. Trent Mono
Yep. Trent
and
and Scott.
yep.
Yep.
So they put together this event called Camp Convoy, and it was a glamping experience down
Nice.
at one of our customers, actually, Zion Ponderosa.
All right.
And we were assigned people in the tent, and I could only be there for one day because I had to go out on a trip to Israel on business the day after. So I had to drive down to St. George, drive back up to Salt Lake. So I had like 8 hours in this tent. Well, the whole 8 hours was spent me and Tiffany just laughing the whole time. Uh, And
What was she doing at the time?
she was the COO at Danique up in Cache Valley.
Okay.
And she's one that's kind of flown under the radar. And I get the clout for discovering her. Someday I will hold that claim to fame forever. In
Nice.
the Silicon Slopes community, I mean, because she's been
Yeah.
in her circles. Everyone that's ever worked with her is, knows the secret. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, we reconnected a couple months later, and I just said, Tiff, I need an operator. I need an operator, and I want to work with you. Will you come join me? And yeah, it's
She did.
been great. She's
Nice.
so patient with me, and is just we're a great match. We're best friends, and we've
So you're
become best friends.
extremely technical founder, and your passion and love, it sounds like, centers around the technology, the engineering aspects. And so partnering up with someone who's really good at the operations, logistics, all the stuff that,
Mm-hmm.
you could get off your plate so you could focus on the product is a
Yes.
good partnership, good match.
Yep. Yeah. It's been it's been a match made in heaven, really. I'm so grateful.
Nice. Okay, so you had early customers who were kind of struggling with loving the idea, maybe struggling with a little bit with the execution, and then you guys started to refine that. But the beauty in that is that you had this kind of really early product market fit. You didn't take a long time, multiple years, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to build like this perfect thing, only to find out that people didn't really want it. So you were able to get it into people's hands really, really quick, get
Mm-hmm.
their feedback. You also had the fact that, that Lake Powell map app was an early indicator that, like, hey, there's definitely a desire and a need, and people are even willing to pay for this, kind of stuff, which is really cool. So you did you guys just come up with the name Wander like right from the beginning? Did you work with an agency on that? And like, tell me a little bit about the brand story and the brand purpose and meaning. How did you start to codify that?
Well, originally we were going to be Map Book, and no, just didn't ring. My little sister,
Wander is way sexier.
yeah, my little sister Kennedy actually came up with the idea for the name.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Nice job, Kennedy.
Yeah.
It's an awesome name, and the brand and everything. It's a really cool brand. So okay, so you guys are brainstorming. Kennedy's like, you should call it Wander. You're like, oh, hmm. I mean, I'm sure you had to figure out, okay, what alternate of a .com or a .app or whatever are we going to use to get the word Wander, right?
I tried to buy Wander.com. It was available at the time for like 7 million. So
Wow. Okay.
didn't have that cash, but
Josh
we
didn't
got
throw
Wander
down the
Maps.
7 mil for you.
Wandermaps.com was available as a premium, so like
Nice.
$1,500 or something we spent on that and
Okay.
ran with
And
it.
that's what it is today,
Yeah.
wandermaps.com. And it's in the app stores. Um, and so you've got these early kind of locations coming on, starting to use it. You're refining the product, starting to grow the team. Um, where do you go from there?
Well, that gets us up to about where we are now.
Okay. How big's your team?
Let's see, 12 full time.
Okay. And probably mostly engineers still?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I wish we had more. We need more. But
Yeah.
yeah, our technology is very building mapping technology is not simple. Most web products, or I feel like a lot of startups are their products are mostly just forms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like ways to input and output information. But when you have 3D rendering and you're managing so much state and so much data from so many different inputs, and when you have two native applications and a full CMS to power the back end of those, and a
Mm-hmm.
full backend infrastructure, right? And full web mapping capabilities, and it's intense. It's very, very intense. So we've had to be very, very selective of what we build and how we build. Our mobile app has not been the primary focus for the first 3 years, and
Mm-hmm.
now we're just starting to build out that end user experience, because we've had to validate our model with destinations, right? Are we solving their problems? Do we have an interface that they can use to manage their data, and can we capture all the data we need to capture to power that experience on the front end? So that's where we're going now, which is really, really exciting to finally get to that point. And so everyone that's watching the Wander story will see a lot of the vision come to life in the mobile app over the next year, which is going
That's
to be really
cool.
exciting.
And I mean, the exciting thing probably for you is that you built this framework and architecture. And if you get that right, then you can kind of almost have this exponential explosion of local destinations come online, because they all are empowered to input their own data, to control and manage that data. You're not restricted
Right.
by you having to like sell a destination and then you have to do all this operational kind of stuff to make their destination come on. You could literally kind of explode overnight into thousands of destinations.
Yeah, we're not totally there to where everything's totally automated, but we're getting there. We've gone down from, 4 months to spin out a map to 2 weeks. And that's in large part due to, automation where AI is baked everywhere behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have AI in our name, but we are absolutely an AI native company. AI is everywhere in what we do, and it has been for a long time, long before the ChatGPT step. But we use open.
Tell me more. Yeah, tell me more about that. And I know you're very technical and can kind of describe this. I see a lot of companies throwing the AI term out there, or the AI language, because that's the hot new sexy thing. But like every new kind of technology explosion, lots of people glom onto the terminology and want to be me too. But when you peel back the onion a little, you peel back the layers, you can see they're not really using AI. I mean, there's automation, there's normal like just computing intelligence and computing power, but that's not necessarily, I mean, maybe it's a form of AI, but what we're talking about and what I think of when I think of like modern AI, it's this for the ability for the computer to take inputs and then think on its own,
Yeah.
like come up with like new solutions and stuff, not just do exactly what it's told, which has been computing from day one. So how are you implementing AI into the Wander framework?
So the thing we've foreseen with the AI trend, the AI boom, is that AI is only as good as the data that it's fed and the rules that it's given, right? That it's trained to make decisions on certain data. And there's so much data in the world that is ephemeral, right? That is and constantly changing. And so that's why our focus on sourcing the best data in travel, creating the most trustworthy digital twin of the world, essentially, and starting out learning in these pockets. We've had sandbox opportunities to work in these different destinations around the world. And now, we have this infrastructure that we're building and that's ready to scale. And so what we're giving is our destinations the power to provide AI powered experiences to their visitors, their audience, and we believe that's going to change the world of travel and tourism. Governments spend $410 billion a year on travel and tourism, on their infrastructure and
To
attracting
support it.
tourists,
Yeah.
and creating more products, tourism related products and all these things. And so we think it's a very overlooked, very, very overlooked industry by a lot of investors, by a lot of technology companies. I think people that sleep on travel and tourism will be sorry they did. And it's only growing. And so they're in 19, was it 19? It's like around the turn of the 1900s. There was something like 25 million people traveled across international borders every year. And now we're up to like 1.5 billion people travel between international borders. It's only growing.
Travel's becoming more and more and more accessible, and the
Mm-hmm.
world's getting smaller and smaller. With, my travel bucket list has gotten a lot larger from Instagram and seeing like
Yeah,
these specific places that I didn't even know existed. And it's like, oh my gosh, that is insane. Where is that? Oh, that's in Phuket, Thailand. Okay. I got to add that to my list. Or there's a
right,
specific place on the Amalfi Coast. And, you know, I mean, I know about the Amalfi Coast, but it's even this like this very specific beach or this specific cave or something that I want to
right,
go check out. Right.
exactly. So
So you're empowering all that, which I think is really cool.
yeah,
Um,
I do think though in the role of AI in travel, people really want to know when our industry talks about personalization, travel personalization, recommendations. Um, I think people still want to know why they are recommended something. They want to
mhm,
have trust that whoever or whatever is recommending something real truly knows them and
mhm.
truly, trusting a chat GPT recommendation it's a good like first step, you know,
Yeah.
um, depending on the data, but the data isn't always up to date and things. And so that's a problem we are really thinking about right now is how do we create authentic travel experiences in this digital world where things are getting smarter and while also balancing over tourism and the needs of each destination that we
Yeah.
we work with. So,
That is a
um,
challenge, right?
yeah.
Protecting the destination and not
Mhm.
having it be overrun and destroyed by tourism. So there's probably a tough balance to strike there. One of the things that you said that dawned on me was one of the challenges of AI is bad inputs equal magnified bad outputs, right? Exponentially bad outputs. So how do you control and how are you guys thinking about the quality of the inputs to make sure that the outputs are high quality?
Yeah, we feel fortunate that we have aligned incentives with the people that have the best data, and they are incentivized. These are the people where if someone gets on a hike that's closed and hurts themselves, there's legal ramifications to that. And so
Mm-hmm.
you better believe they're inputting that that's closed and,
Yeah.
or adding in, hey, this is a wheelchair accessible attraction, or hey, this business is my business is closed because it's going to hurt, my reputation if it's not up to date on
Up to
the
date
platform.
temperature,
Yeah.
like the impact of up to date temperature and weather related stuff can have a huge impact on these
Hmm.
destinations too, right?
Yeah.
So,
And there's still a lot to build around all this, there's we still have I'm looking at this with a 10-year lens of like to really change the world of travel and to become the platform we want to become. It's going to be 10 years and we have big milestones we're going to hit,
yeah,
from between now and then, but this is the problem that I was born to solve. And we're going to win. There's too big of a problem, that there's too many problems in this space and just too much opportunity and too much interest from the people in the ecosystem for us not to
yeah.
win. But it is going to take time, but we're all in. This is the most exciting thing I've ever done.
I love it. I love the confidence, which actually leads me to a question I wanted to ask you about. This confidence that kind of exudes from you is impressive, and it's kind of a humble confidence. You come across as a um, very humble but very very intelligent person, which I love. But you told this story, and I think I maybe read it on LinkedIn or somewhere about your dad and the boat radio. Can you tell? I
Oh
want you
yeah.
to tell the story because I think it was these formative experiences that you had as a young girl um, have kind of led you to this position where you're able to do a lot of things and have the confidence to do a lot of things that maybe other people, male or female, your age, don't have that same level of confidence and maybe didn't have those same experiences. And it kind of leads into like how do you do that for your kids, right? How do you recreate that? So tell us the boat radio story with your dad.
Yeah, so I can't remember how old I was. I don't know what I said on the LinkedIn post, but one Saturday, my
I
dad,
mean, you were teens, right? Early
yeah, I was in
teens
my
or
teens
something.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad came home and one Saturday morning, and we always had Saturday jobs. Mine was usually mowing the lawn. My dad didn't have any sons, which I hope and believe he would have treated me the same if I would have had an older brother. But there
Yeah.
is something different about being the oldest. Your
Yeah.
parents rely on you a little more. You're the guinea pig. But
Yeah. You're
so he
like the
came
third
home.
parent, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was not a good third parent, though. I will say that. But he came home and he had this box and he handed it to me and said, "AJ, the boat radio has gone out. I need you to rewire an entirely new system in here." And I was like, "Dad, okay. I don't know how to do it. Will you teach me?" He said, "Just go YouTube it. You'll figure it out. Just follow the instructions, whatever." And I get in there and I could like totally mess up the whole boat because you got like the ignition right there.
I know, this is the crazy thing about this story. Your
I can
dad
electrocute
just
myself.
hands you this
Yeah,
radio and says,
I know.
go fix the boat.
Go
When
fix
I
the
would be
boat.
thinking, like, I'm not going to let my kid destroy my boat.
I know. And my dad's boat, like he named it after my mom. Like it's the boat's name is Jenny,
Okay.
and it's a prized possession, and we have a long history of our family on boats. Like our boating and time at Lake Powell means a lot to us. So, but anyway, he
But
handed
he
it to me.
had the confidence in you to literally just hand you this radio and say, go figure it out. Go do it.
Yeah, and I think the attitude my dad had with all of us growing up was just learning is more important than things.
That's
Learning
so
is more
cool.
important than things. But you know what I love about my dad is he genuinely believed that his kids were the smartest, most capable, talented humans on the earth. And I left home and realized that that wasn't true.
For
And
all
that's okay.
parents and all
I had
kids.
this realization like, oh, my dad believes this. But the thing is, I've never stopped believing that my dad believes it.
Yeah.
And that builds a lot of confidence. And even when I talk to my dad just loves his girls. He just loves. He only has
Mm-hmm.
3 girls. I just feel so much love and respect and genuine admiration from both my parents. I think as a girl, it's special from your dad, and my mom will even admit it. She's like, "There's something special about it,"
Yeah.
But being that admired by your dad has done a lot for my sisters and I.
So all the dads out there, especially the girl dads, I've got a 4-year-old girl, 4-year-old daughter, and this is so cool. It's I mean, I can see that it's had a huge impact on you, been very formative for you. I'm assuming the same for your sisters. But the fact that his attitude literally was, there's a chance that she might destroy our boat, at least all the electrical aspects of our boat. But it's more important to me that she learns this and gains the confidence that she can do stuff on her own. Because you could even say, like, he could have worked on it with you and had this daddy daughter kind of experience. That's even a whole nother level, maybe, to say, you can do this, you can figure it out on your own, you can do this on your own. And man, I think I would be like, feel like I would have to be standing right there and just be ready to jump in, to prevent anything bad from happening. But maybe I need to rethink that as a dad and say, you know what? Like you pointed out, these experiences and that growth is more valuable in the long run than the things, right? The thing might get broken, the thing might get destroyed. And he saw you at the age of 8 and even younger, like taking apart stuff. And it sounds like instead of getting mad or punishing you, he kind of encouraged that, right? And was actually happy that you were so curious and kind of had this real exploratory sort of perspective on the world and wondering how things worked. And maybe there are too many other parents out there that are like, hey, don't do that, don't break that. And I would maybe put myself in that category, sadly, that I might fall into the more like, hey, what did you do, why did you break that, don't do that, instead of being like, hey, that's cool, did you figure out how it works, or encouraging that, right?
Yeah,
So
and
that's
my
it's
sisters
that's
and
such a
I
cool
were
story.
my sisters and I are all very different. And so my dad took very different approaches with all 3 of us. My sisters weren't pulling things apart and things, but I think the common thread was just like our dad
You
believed
can
in us.
do whatever
Yeah.
you put your mind to. Yeah.
hmm
So how are you replicating that with your daughter?
Um, try to do the same things. I find myself being fulfilled as a parent in a lot of the same ways my dad was. Like, I see myself a little bit, looking back. I see a lot of similarities with just the selfishness of my dad would tell you. He's like, no, it was selfish of me because I got so much joy out of seeing my girls grow and develop into humans. And that's kind of how I feel. I feel like, and maybe it's somewhat narcissist, I don't know, seeing your kids like that you created like grow and develop. Maybe it's not as
Makes you feel
virtuous
like
as you
you're
think,
awesome.
Dave.
I'm such an
But
awesome mom because my kid's so
so,
smart.
yeah, well, I do. I'm like, wow, she is just awesome and so kind. And
Hmm.
yeah, she really is. She has a lot of her dad in her. She's so kind and sweet and um thoughtful. And yeah, I think I definitely admire my daughter. I admire and respect my 3-year-old. She's
Yeah.
almost 4.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess that's where I'm starting. I'll let you know. Let's touch base in 4 or 5
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
and
We'll do a
see
follow-up
see how our
episode and see
4-year-olds are
how.
doing in 4 or 5
That's
years.
right. That's right. Yours is going to be like a rocket scientist, and I'll just be keeping mine out of jail.
Oh, that's the truth though. If we can just keep our kids out of jail and out of the hospital and alive till they're 18, we have won, Dave.
Yeah,
We've won.
I shouldn't even joke. My 4-year-old's the sweetest, kindest. Like, she's amazing.
Oh,
And
I
if
don't
she
doubt it.
listens to this in years, I don't want her to be scarred by my joking comments. But she's so great. Well, so what has been the hardest thing about building Wander so far?
I think being confronted in the face with your biggest weaknesses every day. Definitely. And it's funny.
How have you addressed that?
Oh, lots of prayer, if I'm allowed to say it. Um, yeah. It's funny. I see like this business, this endeavor is all about people,
Mm-hmm.
working with people, helping people, building people, transferring vision to people, communicating with people. And my biggest weaknesses in that respect have been highlighted and have probably been what have been most painful for me.
Hmm.
Whether it be my anxieties with certain interactions with people. One of my biggest struggles is just little follow-up items, like
Hmm.
responding to emails and those little touch points that are so important. It takes a lot of effort for me to do that. But even the bigger things, the interpersonal things, when you have a really, really close relationship with your co-founder, which you have to, your biggest weaknesses are highlighted. And I see a lot of parallels with the weaknesses in business, with my co-founder relationship and my marriage. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing them in both places. They must be me. It must be
There's
me.
a pattern
So,
developing.
which has also been very rewarding to, and I'm grateful for my 2 people in those 2 areas of my life that have supported me in getting better and overcoming those weaknesses and still continue to.
Yeah.
And my appreciation for both of them has increased a lot through this experience, incalculably,
Mm-hmm.
and just realizing what they put up with and how patient they are with me
Yeah.
has but yeah, that's been the hardest thing, is just um I wouldn't say feeling inadequate, I'd say being inadequate, because I am by every standard not qualified to be doing this. I'm just not. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. But it's not the feeling of inadequacy that I struggle with, it's the actual reality and the repercussions of being inadequate, of
Mm-hmm.
being in this position that is so difficult. Because I feel like I'm competing not directly, but competing with people that have MBAs from Harvard and have built companies. When I'm out fundraising and I'm out presenting, I'm being evaluated. Not that I worry about the comparison, but like, that's just the matter of the market. In order to win, you have to compete at the level of
Mm-hmm.
these 50-year-old professionals that have done this before. And
Yeah.
so what I've had to do is I either have to upskill, which I have to constantly be running at a 1,000-mile pace because I have to keep up with everybody and get better faster because I don't have years on my side, and also build the team that can fill in for my weaknesses, right? I have to do a combination of both of those things. And that's been one of the hardest things, is shifting the team around to make sure the right people are in the right seat, because my loyalties are to my shareholders, right? I've taken a responsibility taking money from investors. They've taken a chance on me, and it's my job to return their funds, right? That's my job. And I may be the only female founder they've bet on in the last decade. Like, I sure as heck better prove them right? Because the next girl's getting the check.
And the next girl's getting the check or not.
And for all the people that have said no, the next girl's getting the check, Dave. The next girl's getting the check. So that's my
awesome.
number one motivation in Wander, actually, is after bringing the vision to life, is proving those that have given me money and have bet on me, both employees that have taken salary cuts and taken a chance on joining, and for those investors that have put their hard-earned money behind my business and my vision. I have to prove them right. There's no bellying up here. I can't do it.
Well, I mean, it's awesome because it sounds like, especially at your age, there's a high level of emotional intelligence there. Because on one hand, to do what a founder and creator needs to do to bring their idea to life and have success, there has to be a very high level of confidence. You have to believe in what you're doing. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your team. But it's hard, and it's often, I wouldn't say, well, it's just difficult often for founders to separate confidence and arrogance, right? Because arrogance can have a lot of the same positive effects of confidence, meaning that they believe in what they're doing, they think that they can accomplish this or whatever. But arrogance has the negative side effects of lack of humility, lack of self-reflection, lack of, being aware of your surroundings and other people's emotions. So to find that balance where there's confidence combined with a high level of emotional intelligence is a journey that I think all entrepreneurs have to go on, and can be a very painful journey. You make a lot of mistakes, you figure things out, and it sounds like you are in this good place where you're aware of your weaknesses and the things that you need to work on and to do better, but you're also super confident that what you're building is going to change the world, that it's exciting, that your belief in your ability to do that and help your team do that is awesome. And I think that does actually make you extremely qualified. So you're humble in saying that you're the least qualified or not qualified, but I think you're incredibly qualified to be in the position that you're in. And it's been really cool to hear some of these stories from 8 years old, 12 years old, 14 years old to now. And you've surrounded yourself with some good, successful mentors that have had, tremendous success, and Josh and Travis and other people in the community, which is really great. Your dad has been a really great influence, it sounds like, in helping you, informing you to help you get to this point. So I guess the final question I have is, what's next? What's next for Wander?
What's next?
You said you were teasing about something exciting happening in the next year or so.
Well, we're excited to announce, once we wrap up this round of funding, we're excited to announce that and get back to building. Fundraising is a full-time job.
Yep.
Yeah, we have some.
So are you almost ready to close the round? Do we need to tell anybody listening to this, hey, if you want a chance to get in on Wander, get in now?
I recommend anyone that would ever be interested in, I recommend a conversation, whether the round is technically closed or not, because would love to have a chat. But
all right, all my investor friends listening to this, get a hold of AJ immediately. You're gonna miss your window.
AJ at wandermaps.com. I'll sell the tell the email right here.
All right.
Yeah, we have a lot. We have a lot. A lot is going to be focused on having a global user experience anywhere in the world. If you open the Wander app, there will be something of value. Help you have a better experience wherever you're at. Help you find whatever you're searching for. People travel and go places for a lot of different things. For relationship building, for relaxation and rejuvenation, for fun and excitement, for thrill, for adventure, all those things. But for whatever the reason, when you open the Wander app, we are going to help you do that. That is the goal. So please follow along, download the app, and just watch the updates come in over the next 12 months. And yeah, come follow our story. Be a part of it. Thank you so much,
If
Dave.
people search Wander in the app stores, are you the top? Like, do you pop up at the top of the list?
Probably not yet. Wander, if you search Wander Maps.
Okay.
Wander Maps. Yep.
So Wander Maps, search for Wander Maps. It's wandermaps.com on the website, which can also take you to the downloads. What about social media? Where can people follow you guys on social media?
Explore with Wander.
Okay, so Instagram is at Explore with Wander. Mm-hmm. And do you have Facebook?
I think Facebook's getting there. For sure, Instagram. We have TikTok.
Okay, TikTok.
The dreaded TikTok.
We can talk about the Chinese data conspiracy theories.
Yes, let's talk all about that next time, Dave.
That'll be, round 2. Okay, so at Explore with Wander on Instagram and TikTok, and wandermaps.com. Awesome. So AJ, you're so cool. I'm super excited. I was telling AJ before the podcast that I've been trying so hard to get more female founders on the show. So I'm super excited that she was able to be on here, and she's going to help me recruit some more female founders to come on, right? Because it's really cool to hear these stories and hear how you've built Wander. I'm excited to see where you go from here, and we'll definitely have to do like a round 2 down the line. When you've sold Wander for $1 billion and it's mapped like every location in the world, and then you can tell us like the retrospective, right?
Oh, absolutely. You got it.
Awesome. Thanks, AJ.
Thank you, Dave.